Hi, this is Jan from Heritage Public Library. Today I'm going to tell you about how to write a book review. So the first thing, if you're writing a book review, is to decide what it's for. I have written quite a lot of book reviews. I write them for Library Journal. So those ones are for librarians to choose if they want to buy the book or not. So I write them about the book, whether I like it or not. I get the book sent to me. They are advanced reader copies like this one, and I have to write a very short 200-word review with special requirements. I've also written a lot of book reviews for a blog of book reviews at a former library that I worked in, produced, and those reviews were for the library to promote the library materials. So we were meant to write reviews about materials that we liked, either a book we liked or a movie we liked, something we liked. And if you're an expert on a topic and your review is to share how accurate the book is, that's a different sort of review, and you might not be so focused on the writing style. And so today, in general, the reviews I'm going to talk about are the sort of reviews about a book that you choose and you like. So you're striving to encourage other people to read it. And in book groups, sometimes a person doesn't like a book, but they also enjoy discussing it. So if you want to write about a book you didn't like, but you've got a lot to say about it, you can also do that sort of review. And note that I am using the word book, but this sort of reviewing also does apply to movies and CDs of music or something like that. Okay, so the components you'll need to put in your book review, things that you'll need every time, are the basic information. So things like the title and the subtitle and the author. And you can often put in the publication date and comment on it in detail if it's unusual or relevant. Something like, this book was published in 1906, so it's 100 years old, or published 2020, this book is up to date. And then the other basic information you can include, is it fiction or non-fiction? Because sometimes that's not obvious from the title, or even from a little description of what the book's about. Sometimes it's not obvious. And what is the genre of your book? So is it a mystery? Is it a memoir? Is it a cookbook? Is it a children's book or a graphic novel? Try and get that in quite early so people will know if it's the sort of review they'll be interested in reading. Because there might not be someone that's interested in reading a children's book or a cookbook at all, so help them to decide. And put in some other basic information that might be relevant for some books, like, was it written in Swedish originally and translated into English? So if there's something important about a book like that, be sure to include that. And include things like, does it have a sequel, or is it a sequel, or is it part of a series? So that's really good to know. And you can look that sort of thing up on Novelist, which our library has, and other places, to find out how many books there are in a series, or if a book's a sequel. Okay, so that's the basic information you should include in your book review. So how to write it? You should start with some sort of hook. This is true for all sorts of non-fiction writing. So why would somebody want to read your review any further? So you could start with things like, this is the best book I have ever read because, or I was so surprised what I learned from this book, or even, did you know that? Some sort of hook. The hook could be a quote even from the book, something to get the reader to want to read more of your review. And then you go into, what is the book about? So tell enough of the story or topic of the book so your reader knows if it's something they might want to read. You might have something like, it is a story of an orphan girl who goes to live on a farm on Prince Edward Island in Canada. Or you might have, this is an illustrated guide to birds living on the East Coast. It's just a quick little précis of the book and tells you basically what it's about. So someone who's looking for Anne of Green Gables isn't necessarily going to be wanting to read Sibley's Guide to Birds, or vice versa. And don't give away too much of the plot, though. Your book review shouldn't just be a retelling of the plot of the whole book. especially don't reveal any surprise endings, because people want to read the book themselves and find out about the surprise ending, if it is actually a surprise and a twist. And tell your listeners or your readers, what is your book like? What is it? A funny book? Is it a serious book? Is it a sad book, or a factual, or timely, or long-winded? All sorts of descriptions from books will work really well. And so other things you can put in your review are, if it's a non-fiction book, how was it researched? Was it based on interviews or memories? If it was a memoir, it could be based on a person's own memories. Was it letters? Was it scientific papers? And if it's memories, it's interesting to know, did somebody else who went through the same event remember it the same? I just read the book Educated by Tara Westover, and it was very interesting that she said that she was writing about her own childhood, and she went and asked members of her family, her own siblings, and various other people that she knew as a child, is this what happened? And people remembered things differently. So if there's something like that about the book, you can put that in the review as well. It's a memoir, it's based on memories, but there is some controversy about what really happened. And so if it's a fiction book, is it based on a true story? And a lot of fiction books are based on true events. There's a lot set in, say, a large world event like World War II that had no other relationship to reality. The characters are completely made up. But there's a lot of books that are also based on real people. So if it is based on a true story, how accurate is it? And if some people think it's accurate and some people think it isn't, include that it's controversial how accurate it is. And also, when you're writing your review, you could also suggest other books that are similar. So if a reader likes this book, they might like something else. And that will help your readers, if they've already read the book you've written a review of, give them ideas of other things to read. Or if your review is so appealing they want to read it, it'll also give them other things they want to read. And also include things like, what has this author also written? Because perhaps this book isn't as well known as some of the author's other books. And it'll also give your reader of your review an idea of what other sorts of things this author writes. And you can also put in, if you're mentioning other things that the author has written, is this book similar to what the other books that the author has written? All the books cozy mysteries, or is this a completely different book from the other ones? The other ones that the author wrote were memoirs, and this is a novel, or fiction, and this one's non-fiction. So how do you put all these components together? So to make your review interesting, use details, but don't give too much away. You could say things like, the scene where my father is coming back, the scene where the father came back was wrenching, rather than just saying it was sad. That gives you a little bit of detail about what happened in the book, but not too much. If the father comes back and it's the surprise ending, don't mention that then. And yeah, try to avoid saying, I loved the book, without explaining why you loved it. Think about why you loved it, or why you didn't as you write. So was it the language you liked or didn't like? It was poetic, it was too confusing, it was short sentences, or was it the characters that have stayed in your head even though you read the book months ago? Or you hated the characters and you just didn't like this person? Or was it the beautiful illustrations in the case of a book that's illustrated? And that would apply for things like Sibley's Guide to Birds that I mentioned, or also children's books. And did you like the fast-paced story, or you thought it really dragged, or you liked the contemplative pace of the story? And or did you like how much you learned about medieval society and you weren't focused on the language. So yeah, put all those components together and hopefully you'll get a book review that someone is interested in reading. And I'm going to read out a short book review that I wrote a few months ago in March when the library first closed down, and it was put up on the website of the library. And it's about Miss Julia Paints the Town by N.B. Ross. So I'll read this out, and as I go through, I'll tell you what components that are in it. For great books to take your mind off your troubles, try our audiobooks featuring Miss Julia, an irrepressible Southern belle who navigates her small North Carolina town with whimsy and gentle, sly humor. So there's my hook. For books to take your mind off your troubles, of course, was connected with the lockdowns, and I've put in half a sentence saying what the books were about. Miss Julia, who's a Southern belle, and I've used those words. It's got humor in it and whimsy. So that whimsy is the kind of book that captures, kind of word that captures this book actually, or this series of books. The books are filled with warm main characters and satisfyingly dastardly villains. Miss Julia herself is a sparkling, unexpected person whose charming Southern exterior hides a backbone of steel. The narrator, Cynthia Darlow, does a superb job of capturing the raft of quirky townspeople and Miss Julia herself. So again, I'm trying to capture what sort of thing is happening in the book, and why you should read it, or in this case, this is an audiobook, so I'm also commenting on the narrator and how well she did. Okay, and then the next paragraph, I go on to talk about more of the plot, because I've told you Miss Julia's whimsy, she's got a backbone of steel. It's like, what happens to her? So this is what happens to her. Miss Julia was shocked by the sudden death of her overbearing, in-charge husband, but even more shocked to learn that he had been conducting a long-term affair and had fathered a child out of wedlock. Things get worse when Miss Julia discovers that her late husband left their comfortable fortune to his illegitimate heir. Under such circumstances, what choice does a southern lady have but to take in the illegitimate child and his mother, and then to fend off distant relatives who are chasing after their fortune? So there's a little bit about the story. And again, I don't want to give away too much of the story, but it's just enough that you know what it's about. At the very beginning, you wouldn't know about the child fathered out of wedlock, or that she takes the mother and child in, but it's pretty central to the book, and it's pretty near the beginning. And then I go on to talk about the other books by N.B. Ross in the series. N.B. Ross has created an entire series about Miss Julia and her adventures that starts with Miss Julia Speaks Her Mind and goes on through 22 books. Heritage Public Library provides 5 audiobooks through RB Digital, and they are called Miss Julia Strikes Back, Miss Julia Stands Her Ground, Miss Julia Delivers the Goods, Miss Julia, and the one I'm currently enjoying, Miss Julia Paints the Town. And then I have one more paragraph that I recommend Miss Julia for everyone. These books are certainly aimed towards a female audience, but I'm stuck at home with a bunch of men and caught them listening in. One member of my very male household described the antics of Miss Julia as Southern comfort. It makes me want to have a sweet tea and a mint julep. Pour yourself a sweet tea and enjoy Miss Julia. Okay, so that's the end of my review. And the one thing I realized that was missing from this review when I went back to read it for this was that Miss Julia Speaks Her Mind was published in 1999. I looked that up. So these books have come out pretty quickly, about once a year. So I think from the tone of the review, you get that I'm not claiming they're heavy and weighty tones. So the author has actually written them pretty fast. Okay, so that is what I have to say about book reviews today. We are having a book review program currently in July of 2020 at the library, so you're welcome to come along by Zoom if you'd like to. And maybe when the library reopens to programs, we'll have another program if people are interested. So thank you for listening, and I will stop the recording now. Bye bye.